Welcome back to Quintessence Virtual Retreat, Awakening Forgiveness. I'm so pleased to be joined here with my guest, Claudia Granger, Psychic Medium. And thank you so much for joining our discussion about how forgiveness can change and uplift our lives. And I'd love to start with just taking a couple full body breaths together just to kind of align.
Thank you for having me and sharing your gift so that we can share with the world what forgiveness and awakening forgiveness is all about. So thank you for hosting it. I'm very pleased to be here with you and thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. And let's start by just taking a moment to really feel into what you'd like to receive from this session together, and kind of setting our own personal intention for this time. Also, I'd like to thank everyone for taking this time out of their life to focus on their healing work and, kind of diving into this forgiveness practice together. We know that when we do our own personal healing work, it has a ripple effect out into our families, our communities, and the entire planet. So I just want to thank everyone for taking this time to consciously heal. And Claudia, would you share with us just a little bit about your work?
Sure. As a psychic medium, I'm always focused on helping people to find their, how should I say, path to God or to their brilliant God self, because we are all created in the image of prime source, creator, God, goddess, whatever you want to name it. And I see in my work that a lot of people do not really realize that. And they're so entangled in their day-to-day doings that it seems like they're getting lost in 3D world. So I see it as my job to awaken them a little bit on their path to their own Godhead again and to make their life easier and lighter. For me, it's so very important that they're living their life out of their core given inner brilliance, which they are born with and which gets lost and forgotten along our 3D life. So to me, it's like making people lighter. My mission is to make people experience less pain, let go of the pain. And whether I do readings or letting go of emotional baggage sessions or whatnot, that's my goal. Ultimately, to lead them by the hand from their 3D self to their God self.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Would you share with us, just in starting, like a little bit about what your understanding of forgiveness is?
Sure. For me, forgiveness is exactly that. To let go of 3D, let go of duality, let go of the pain point, let go of the living hell we are sometimes created ourselves, to go to the oneness again, to go to the God source again, to go to the brilliance of life itself again, to see this as an experience and not to suffer under this experience, to go away from the victim mode, to go back into the co-creator mode. That is, for me, forgiveness. It's the first step to let go of this duality, the first step to go beyond, the first step to come back to be the co-creator of what you're meant to be, creating your life rather than being victimized by it.
Yes, and I love how you keep saying the first step, because I also see forgiveness as kind of an inception point into awakening our heart. And really, I kind of downloaded this series when I was creating these gem essences, and I was writing a product description, and I heard this voice say, there's a reason the order, like look at the order of these that you know, just randomly put them in, right? I randomly put them in an order. And then it was like, oh, it's like forgiveness, which is this peridot spray that I created. It's about opening the heart, right? And so to open the heart, you can't be in separation, right? And open your heart. And so I think that really honing our skill at forgiveness becomes this spiritual tool that we're constantly using on a daily basis. It becomes like brushing our teeth, right?
Exactly. You said something very important. That's the opening of the heart. The heart feels. The mind thinks, but the heart feels. And guess what? The path to the God self is through the feeling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And positive emotions are the rocket fuel in our life. Negative emotions make us shrink. So when we pay attention to our emotions and feelings, then we can actually see where we're going. Do we go up or do we go down? And only that with an open heart, we can then realize who we really are and where we're really going with this. So we're going down the hill, literally not feeling good, feeling worse, being in the cycle, like in the hamster cage and rat race, or do we become translucent? Because one of the things, the major thing in all this is not to judge, and first not to judge oneself. Because
Yes.
the moment you judge and you do not accept yourself, you're cutting yourself short. You're disconnecting yourself from your prime creator connection, from your God source connection. I tell my clients all the time, love yourself for who you are, with your strengths and your weaknesses. Then other people button pushing or life circumstances cannot hurt you. They would go right through you instead of being in your system like a fish hook. Yeah. So the first step for me in forgiveness is also self-acceptance. I'm not bad or comparing to others. I'm not better than. I'm not less than. I am equal, because when we are seeing ourselves as soul, we are all interconnected. We are all equal. We are all made in God's image. Now, what we're playing here in the theater play of life is a totally different thing. But to open the heart to that awareness of oneness, we need to understand something very important. We need to understand that we are in a theater play of life. And most people take this so serious. This is life and it's drama. Yes, and it's an experience. But if you are able to step aside and watch the scene and watch really what's going on and who's doing what and why, you become more aware. Then you can go up, in and up, and up the stairs. I always use the symbol of the pyramid effect. When you're standing on the top of on the bottom of the pyramid is vast. It's huge. Can you imagine for a moment to stand at the Pyramid of Giza on the bottom there and looking up, and the pyramid is huge. And so on the right hand side we have the positive, on the left hand side we, let's say, have the negative for the sake of the image. And then when you're going through your forgiveness process with an open heart, so you're going up and up and up, and you will realize the right and left, the positive and negative charges will become less and less. The pendulum swing of our 3D world is becoming less and less. And now let's go a little bit further and envision us to stand on the top of the pyramid. And that's why, for example, the Freemasons use the pyramid with the pot ahead as a symbol of enlightenment, freedom from the 3D world. With the all-seeing eye, which is our third eye center, the seat of the soul. Let's envision to stand on top of the pyramid. We have a wider picture. And when we look down, we realize that down there is not so important anymore. The humans down there are so small. But here, up there, in the top of the pyramid, where the oneness is, we see the big picture. We see how everything is created. We see how the landscape really looks like. When we are down there, we see only a smidgen of what's really going on. And that's why it's important to go up and have an open heart.
And so what's coming to me is this idea of like, when we forgive, it is this path slash immediate connection to source.
Yes, exactly.
And so from that perspective, it's like bringing us into our spiritual path in that much more, it's like an expedited way to do that, because when we come into forgiveness, we have to depersonalize, right? Which moves us out of the ego.
Right.
And from the heart place, you know, and moving into that unity consciousness that you're kind of speaking about from the top of this
Right.
pyramid, we're like, you know, it's okay, these transgressions, and we still have to move through them in an emotional process. We still need to feel what it is. We still need to create the boundaries that are appropriate with people. But we don't have to take it on, right? At that level of God, like we don't have, it doesn't have to become our identity.
Exactly. That's the point. It's never our identity, it's an experience. And that reminds me of a story of Neil Donald Walsh. Have you heard about the story, The Little Soul in the Sun?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I paraphrased it, and I hope Neil Donald Walsh will forgive me for this transgression of paraphrasing his story. So God sits there in the heavenly realms with all the myriads of souls and asks what they would like to experience. So one little soul comes up and says, God, I would like to experience your forgiveness. God says, okay, let's do it then. Who would volunteer to do something to you so that you can forgive? Because we need a counteracting to forgiveness. So a soul volunteers and says, but please, little soul, remember that I am exactly what you are, that I'm no lesser or no different, that I do something for you or to you that you can experience God's forgiveness. And the little soul says, oh yeah, no worry. I will remember that. Let's just go and incarnate and do something and experience it. Mm-hmm. So, okay, but remember, I give you this experience because you asked for it. And then they incarnate, and of course, so the second one does something to the little one, and the little one does not remember. So here we have cause and effect. And then that goes through the incarnation, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. So they both remember, can both open their heart, and therefore realize we are eternal soul. We are part of God. We are part of God walking on this aspect only in the limitation of duality. And in that moment of remembrance, they can ascend again to the God self. Because in that moment, they are aware. They can forgive. So to me, it's a lot about remembrance of who we really are in all this forgiveness process. Remembering that we are not the victim, or we are not, it's just an experience. And yes, as you said, experience can be very painful. But I want to tell you one more story, if I'm allowed to ask.
Yes, please.
In the beginning of my spiritual practice, I asked my guiding ones, my assigned helpers, for this lifetime, lots and lots of questions. So one of them was, if God is good, then why are there wars, and why are children born sick, and why, and why we have rapes, and why we have this, and why we have the other, so many different things which are so hurtful in this world. And they said, well, you're seeing things now from a human perspective, you're not seeing it from a soul perspective. And I asked them, then what do you mean? And I said, well, this lifetime is like a theater play. Yeah, you sign up for that role, and you sign up for the good and bad traits you're having, and you sign up for the circumstance, and you have volunteers, like in this little story from Neil Donald Walsh, Little Soul in the Sun. And we wouldn't judge an actor, let's say, for playing a part of a murderer. Mm-hmm. We would, after this theater play or after the movie, we would clap the actor on the shoulder and say, hey man, good performance. But in the theater play, we would say, oh, he's a villain, he's so bad. and that person is so good. But after the play is over, when we are back into soul awareness, all these polarities do not matter anymore. We shed all these bodies, the physical body, the emotional body, the spirit body, and just the God awareness is kept alive, because that's the true energy of I am, of who we really are. Now, then I asked further, okay, so it's like a theater play of life. Well, how do we incarnate? And so they took me by the hand into something like which looked like the earth, and it was like a waiting room, a total white golden light, and I saw many souls in the form of golden figurines. You see, when saints are painted with a golden halo, that means they're soul aware, the gold shines through, and ultimately in this waiting room I saw the golden souls walking by, like floating, almost like golden ghosts. And each time when I recognized somebody, I saw a face from the incarnation of before. And sometimes I saw 5, 6, 10, 20 faces, like a kaleidoscope of faces, and sometimes only one or two.
Mm-hmm.
So after I made my choices, I had free will. You know, we had a lot of free will, and then we had in the cause and effect certain things I had to explore. You know, we call this karma. So then I said I want to be female, born in Germany, and so on. And then they asked who's volunteering. My mother volunteered, and a lot of other people volunteered to give me learning lessons, or some of them for free. But I waited then for incarnation, and here came a soul with a certain face, and she said, "Oh, I recognize you." Yes, I said, "I recognize you too. We had this in the lifetime." Yes, she said, "And I just signed up for a life, and it's so exciting. I'm going to be a researcher in the Amazon, and I'm going to be kidnapped and raped. Isn't that exciting?" And I thought, oh boy, I hope she finds it so exciting when this is really happening. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
We sign up for certain things, and the soul doesn't judge. Like I said, as an actor in the theater,
Yeah.
we don't judge the roles. We are experiencing them. And luckily for us, there is a law of cause and effect. That's what I would say is God's justice. So if you want to play, let's say, a part of a murderer, you will have to be murdered in another lifetime. Not all justices happen in one lifetime, where we can see, I have a lot of clients who say, oh, it's so unjust. They took everything from me. Oh, it's so unjust. This person did me physical harm. Oh, it's so unjust. You know, I got beaten to blow by this person, and they never got prosecuted. That's so unjust. And it's hard for us to understand when we do not see, let's say, punishment or the justice of God's justice happening in the same lifetime. But I can tell you that when we see the bigger picture, again, top of the pyramid, we see many lifetimes. I remember from incarnation, when I was very young, I off the bat remember 25, 35. It could tell you all about them. But I also realized that there was a cause and effect. Sometimes I was male, sometimes I was female, sometimes I was the good guy, sometimes I was the bad guy, and so on. So the first thing is to understand you're playing a role. And it's just an experience of many. And here comes a very important part. We can take control of this experience. We are not powerless. We are actually really powerful. And there are steps one can take to open the heart, and there are steps one can take to let the old imprints go of the hurt, of the pain. There are steps we can do. Active.
Yeah.
We are in charge. We are not the victim. We can co-create in this hell we have created. We can get out of the hell. We can go to our heaven. We can experience heaven on earth.
And one of the things that's kind of coming to me about what you're speaking of from a Buddhist perspective is like this idea of samsara, right? Where we're in these cycles of reincarnation. And we're trying to basically, you know, as my understanding is, we're trying to get to this God self realization, because then from this place, we have forgiven everyone and we're no longer bound to creation because we have created equanimity with all of our relationships, basically. And
Right.
so I'm seeing how forgiveness is like one of these tools to use to kind of cut, you know, in the spiritual world, what we might say cording with people, right? And places where we're stuck in this dance that is not, you know, maybe dance isn't the right word, but kind of like jousting with people. And so forgiveness is kind of a way to put our sword down, right? And just and so I'm seeing how through that forgiveness, it can be an inception point to, you know, enlightenment or samadhi or these higher states of awareness. And so I'm curious, you know, could you speak a little bit about what you see some of the challenges, you know, either people or yourself have had with getting to this place of forgiveness? I know we kind of spoke on this, I guess, because it's like the bottom of the pyramid and you're kind of stuck in that place of duality. And once you, but I'm curious if there's any, you know, kind of tools or things that we could really offer people to move into forgiveness.
So the challenge is to come from the pain point to the bliss point.
Okay.
And when we are in pain, you know, we are dense and we're hurting, and this is real. It feels really real. We cannot just say, oh, I don't want to hurt anymore. You know, today I'm not hurting. We're still hurting. More truth when we feel it in our body, because one of the stepping stones is for feeling. So when we're feeling in our body we hurt, we can pinpoint it in our body.
Yes.
And our body can then show us, with the subconscious and ourselves working together, the pictures when it first started. And in the body-brain connection, we can triangulate in the brain where the feeling exactly is connected. So I, for example, tell my clients, okay, where do you feel the pain? Where is it in your body? Let's say the chest. And then I ask them, give me a color from shape and temperature to triangulate in the brain where this feeling is created. And let's say they say blue, ice cold, and like a porcupine with needles and ice needles. All right. And then we're going into disconnecting the neurotransmitter firing from the brain by doing 21 rapid eye movements, meaning with closed eyes, we move our eyes to the very right, counts as 1, very left, counts as 2, and we do that 21 times to disconnect. And then we're doing the breathing. Let's say it sits in the chest, we breathe it into a center point of the chest with the essence of, I acknowledge you, you needed to be there. And then breathe it out with the essence of, but I do not need you anymore. Why? Because we cannot let anything go before we acknowledge it.
Yes.
And so after this breathing 8 times, we reconfirm, no, I do not want to have this bad energy back by doing another 21 rapid eye movements. And then we see how did it change. And mostly it's lighter, the form has changed, the temperature has changed, the color has changed. And then we can say, see, we have some power.
Yes.
How to shift something. And it is very important to understand that when it's not victimized, prostrated, but we have power to do something. And then comes part 2. Part 2, we dive through the cellular memory, because ultimately our body changes every 7 years. Nevertheless, we have scars. That means also information to new cells. And we can dive through and let the picture survive. And then we can work with the inner imagery to let those go. That's what I learned in the synergy therapy. Work with whatever picture comes. And then we let the imprint go out of the body, out of our memory bank. And then I double check with the client, how is it going to feel in regard to this theme 1 year from today and 5 years from today. 1 year from today, it might be a little bit better. But 5 years from today, it might be super, no problem. Then we're taking the symbol of this feeling super easygoing, lighthearted, and put it into the former imprint area of the body, because our cellular memory wants to reiterate something, and it doesn't discern whether it reiterates something from the past or from the future. So when we integrate and anchor the symbol of the future well-being into the now, then the cellular memory will already reiterate it in the here and now, and the here and now is the point of changing. It's not in the past and not in the future, in the now.
Yes.
And now we then can live freer, and this imprint is no longer hooked in us or blocking us in any way or shape or form.
Yes. And from this place, it's like we can approach life from a more embodied and whole, right?
Yes.
Because when it's like if we're stuck in resentment, right? An aspect of ourselves is kind of frozen in that moment, because in the present, we're okay, right? Like in the moment, if we're processing, right, we're generally in a safe environment and our world is okay. But it's like that idea of baggage. And when you forgive, it's like giving it all to the goodwill, you know? And then it can recirculate, right? And that energy then is free. And our spirit then has more energy to be in this moment.
Exactly. I had, by the way, a very fascinating and almost funny, in retrospect, dream about it once. So here I was in an icy landscape, and way in the distance I saw an island. And it was pretty cold, and I had luggage around me. Some looked modern, some looked old, some was like stitched like a travel bag from the Southwestern times, and an end. So here I was walking on ice on the ocean, trying to get to the sunlight there, and shoveling all my suitcases in front of me. And here it was, the ice got thinner as I came closer to the island there where it was sunshiny and warm, which I wanted to get to. And all of a sudden the ice cracked, and I went, oh, my suitcases, my belongings, my bag. And a voice said to me, wouldn't you say it would be easier to get there if you let that stuff go? That old stuff. You don't need that anymore. Down there at the island, you're just, you don't need all that stuff. Down at the sunshine, you don't need all that closing of who you think you are and who you have been. Drop it now. So I dropped it, let it actively go. That really, like, oh, should I really let this go, or do I want to keep on hold on it? And I made that dream an active letting go process. And here it was, the ice was melting with the ice of my heart. And I could easily swim and relax in the sunshine, and here the dream ended. And I thought, wow, I really was holding on to stuff. My own personal luggage, my identity, my dramas. And I thought, yep, I had a lot to let go of. So, I mean, I didn't start, without it. I experienced it too, just letting go.
Yes.
And that's why I see how easy it is to, walk without that luggage.
Thank you. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I just want to add two more small things, please. I would like to share with the viewer a tiny little example of how we can let certain things go. And there's a gentleman called Dr. David Snyder. He's on YouTube. He does a lot of NLP. And like Mr. Huner, which I shared with you earlier, he also shares an interesting method I find very, very simple. So what we do is, let's say we tune in where we have something to forgive with a person, see where that connection sits in the body, and really draw it out of the body, ball it up, till we are really empty of it, and then throwing it over the shoulder. And then you do that, try to get it back. You will realize you cannot get it back. And forgiveness can be so easy if we are willing to let it go.
Yes. Yes.
And one other story in regard of that this theater play of life consists of volunteers. Even if the volunteers harm us tremendously. At one time in my youth, I was severely abused. So I ran away. Here come my mom with the car, catching up, dragged me into the car, opened the door, dragged me in, and said, "Do you really understand how my soul hurts when I do this and this and these things to you? Do you really know how it pains me to do these things to you? It hurts tremendously. I do not want to do it. I want to do it." Think about it. I was shocked. And then I asked her, "What did you just say?" And she said, "I didn't say anything." She couldn't remember. Her soul spoke.
Mm-hmm.
Not her ego, not her role player, not the actor. The soul spoke. And like we said earlier with the heart, when we listen to our feelings, the good ones, our soul speaks.
Yes.
And that's where we can then follow the soul in and up to the higher region.
Yes.
And when the soul pains, we can let it go and let the soul arise again by really working with the body-mind connection.
Yes. Thank you so much, Claudia, for this time together and just really diving deep into forgiveness and really how it affects our soul and our soul's progression through lifetimes. And I'd love to just take a couple breaths together and send this conversation, you know, out into the ethers kind of as a prayer for all that are in a place to receive it. And I'd like to close by saying, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may our thoughts, words, and actions contribute to the happiness and freedom of all beings everywhere. And thank you so much.
And thank you so much, and amen to your last words. Beautiful.
Okay.
Namaste.